I'd like to welcome everybody to our first official City Council meeting for the month of April. Today is Monday, April 5th, 2010, and if we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic that stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we've got a couple of proclamations to give out tonight, and we've got two groups. If I could have the parents that are affected with children with autism to come to the podium here to my right. I'd like to give this proclamation to, pardon me? Oh, yeah, to make this meeting official, I ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll, please. Stand corrected. Thank you, Alderman.
Gudenkauf. Here. Pezza. Here. Shea. Here. Leader. Here. Rose. Here. Bram.
Here.
Pipskin. Absent. York.
Here.
Nybo.
Here.
Healy.
Here.
Morley.
Here.
Kennedy.
Here.
Mulliner.
Here.
Wagner.
Here.
13 present, 1 absent.
13 present, 1 absent. We have an official quorum. And next on the agenda is a proclamation. As many may know, in our country and in the world, April is considered Autism Awareness Month. And as a mayor that's affected personally by this condition, I wanted to make this official here in our town. So, and I have a group of very active parents that have come out tonight to accept this proclamation on behalf of all the over 100, I believe, in 20 children affected with the #1 medical condition affecting children here in our country, to accept this proclamation. So I will go ahead and read this real quick, and then I'll actually have Mom, Ms. Drummond, say a few words. Whereas autism is a complex neurological disease and developmental disability that robs children of social skills, the ability to talk and interact, and do the normal things that we often take for granted. Whereas autism affects 1 in every 110 children born today and affects boys nearly 4 times as much as the level of girls. It has been diagnosed at a higher rate than pediatric AIDS, juvenile diabetes, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, and all pediatric cancers combined, and is considered to be our country's #1 medical condition afflicting children today. And whereas autism is treatable through early diagnosis, early intervention, including critical intensive medically necessary therapies, such as speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, ABA, which is applied behavioral therapy, RDI, floor time, and other behavioral therapies combined with medical interventions have been proven to be extremely effective, often unlocking the world of autism to enable these beautiful children the ability to communicate and interact with the ultimate goal of an independent and fulfilling productive life. Now, therefore, I, Peter PDCNE III, Mayor of the City of Elmhurst, do hereby proclaim the month of April as Autism Awareness Month in the City of Elmhurst to promote awareness and early detection of autism. Thank you. And with that, I've asked Joan Olson, who is a very active mom in our community, to say a few words, and if any other parents would like to say a few words. Also, Nancy O'Brien is here, and we have a referral going through tonight about locators, which are not only for children with autism, but she was one of the moms that actually brought the problem to my attention, but for our people with challenges that often may get lost in town. This could be a senior with Alzheimer's. This could be a child with autism who happens to might be a runner, or another disability like Down syndrome or Williams syndrome. But we're gonna do our best to have a program in our town where we could actually have a city-sponsored program where we can track down these people that may get away from a parent or a loved one or a parent taking care of their parent. So, so I'm proud to say that Chief Neubauer's done some great research for us so that we can hopefully have a program here in Elmhurst soon that will be able to track our children and possibly our parents, seniors down as well. So. With that, Joan Olson, if you'd like to say a few words.
Thanks, Pete. I'm so glad he teared up, so now I don't have to. Woo! You know, my son was diagnosed 5 years ago just this month, and what I'd like to bring forth is to talk about where I hope we are 5 years from now. I hope that, I was hoping you'd done that for me. I hope that 5 years from now I'm here talking about how far we've come. And this is a wonderful community, and this is a wonderful proclamation. We're all very lucky to be going through this together. So thank you.
also want to acknowledge my my best half, who's here tonight, the First Lady of Elmhurst, Rose DeCiani. This also is a condition that affects all the family. My mother-in-law is here tonight, who's been a big advocate and supporter. I know many of us rely on our grandparents to help their kids, to give us a break, to watch our kids, so that we can spend time with our family. And they go to. There's a lot of therapy that goes into trying getting these kids help, and that therapy is almost sometimes every day, every other day. And grandparents are a big supportive arm. So my mother-in-law, Roberta, I'd like to thank her for all her help and all the grandparents that help out. It takes an entire family, an entire community to heal this condition, and also to be active in changing legislation, as many of us did. We're very active in getting insurance reform in the state, and now we're trying to get it nationally to get this condition insured better, and we'll continue and always be advocates for our young ones. So thank you all for coming out tonight, and I also have another proclamation, so you guys are, thank you very much. And this is for another special program here in Elmhurst and throughout the state. We have a very distinguished person who is on our senior commission, Jackie Haddad, who is here tonight to accept this proclamation. Jackie's a very big advocate on preventing child abuse, and I will read this on behalf of a great person, a great champion for people in this community. Actually, Jackie Haddad and I go back, way back to ECAF days when she was the president, and she taught me the ropes of how to raise money and help people with disabilities, and all of a sudden I was wearing the president hat. So Jackie was one of my mentors, and very proud to be a friend of Jackie Haddad's. Whereas child abuse is a community problem and finding solutions requires the involvement of the people throughout the community, including the courts. Whereas the statistics of children who are abused and neglected escalate each year. Last year in Elmhurst, Illinois, had 28 reported cases. Whereas the effects of child abuse are felt by whole communities and need to be addressed by the entire community. Whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of partnerships created among the courts, social service agencies, schools, religious organizations, law enforcement, and the business community. Whereas Parents Care Plus Share, a prevention prevention program of Children's Home Plus Aid, offering positive alternatives to help break the cycle of abuse, is sponsoring a Blue Bow campaign to heighten awareness of the need to support families. Whereas all citizens should become more aware of child abuse and its prevention within the community, and to become more involved in supporting parents to raise their children in a safe, nurturing environment. And whereas, let me proclaim April 2010 as Child Abuse Prevention Month and call upon all citizens to increase their participation in efforts to prevent child abuse and thereby strengthening the communities in which we live. Thank you, Jackie. If you'd like to say a few words about the program.
I'm never speaking. Good evening, everyone. It's my privilege to tell you a little bit about the program that I'm working with, and I've been on the board and been working with Parents Care and Share for 10 years now. And Elmhurst has always been very supportive, and we hope that you will continue. We do have the blue bows that all the aldermen have to wear for the month of April. I'm asking for a $1 donation, and many of the businesses in town will have these at their place of business, and they're collecting $1 each. I do have some brochures. Maybe I'll pass these out to the audience, and look for the blue bows on the stores here in Elmhurst. And I thank you, Mayor DeCiani, so much for letting me talk. Thank you. Thank you.
Alrighty, at this time I go to item number 3 on our, item number 4 on our agenda, which is receipt of written communications and petitions from the public. At this time, if there is any petitions or written communications from the public, if you'd please rise and present those to our clerk Spencer at this time. Any petitions or written communications at this time that you'd like to be presented to the City Council, if you could rise and present those to our clerk Spencer. Patty Peeps up here. would be terrific. Seeing none, I then go on to item number 5, which is our public forum portion of our meeting. And if anyone at this time would like to speak about anything regarding Elmhurst, I'd ask you to raise your hand, and I will call on you. You can go to the microphone either to my right or to my left, and please state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak about any Elmhurst issue. So, anybody at this time for public forum? This gentleman here in the aisle. Sir, if you can go to the microphone there, off to the side, that would be great. And thanks, Joan. Please state your name and your address, and then you'll have 3 minutes, sir. Thank you.
Jeff Houston, 857 South London Avenue. I'm the founder of Residents Against New Taxes, which is an organization that we are heading up a petition drive to repeal the current Elmhurst property tax increase for the purpose of reducing the current budget deficit. I just wanted to bring you all up to date as to what's going on with our organization. Presently, Residents Against New Taxes have collected over 3,000 signatures. This represents approximately 25% of the total ballots cast, which was 12,055 in April 09 Elmhurst consolidated election. To better appreciate the significance of this amount of signatures, in the last city election, none of the wards individually had more total ballots cast than this. This includes totals for both winners and losers. And even though we're very proud of our efforts to come up with over 3,000 signatures, we are not finished. Because of the City Council's previous unwillingness to heed to those residents who do not want their property taxes increased, especially in these critical economic times for American families, we do not believe that this City Council will listen to over 3,000 of its residents. Therefore, our new goal is to collect enough signatures that would represent over 50% of those who voted in the last election in this city, which would be over 6,000 signatures, and which we are obviously well on our way to doing. We hope that this greater number of signatures represents a number that will hopefully get your attention and get you to repeal this property tax increase. The members of Residents Against New Taxes, and there are some here in the audience tonight, especially wish to thank the members of the City Council who originally did not vote for this tax increase in the first place. Those outstanding elected officials are Alderman Shea, Nybo, Gudenkauf, Pezza, and Brom. Residents Against New Taxes, Rose, appreciates how dedicated and busy these aldermen are. So members of Residents Against New Taxes have brought them a petition tonight to sign tonight to publicly reaffirm their starting the opposition to this property tax increase and to clearly show their support of those residents who have already joined in signing this petition. And in closing, we wish to thank everybody for allowing us to speak tonight. We also wish that the aldermen who did not previously vote against this tax increase will take this next time to reconsider supporting the repeal. And also to take a little bit of time to obviously...
10 seconds, sir. You have 10 seconds to finish up. Thank you.
To take some much-needed time for relief and healing for their collective private pains that have been the subject of so much recent attention and discussion.
Thank you, sir.
We thank you.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate that. All righty. Anybody else at this time for public comment at this time? This woman over here in the black there. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. My name is Terry Pastka. I'm the director of the Citizen Advocacy Center. My comments tonight are related to an agenda item regarding the Economic Development Commission and are a follow-up to a previous comment I made back in January. Based on City Manager Borchart's comments about EEDC members being required to file economic interest statements, our organization went out to the county and actually pulled the statements for all the members of the commission who filled them out. We followed that up with a Freedom of Information Act request for the city, for the Hurley, Athar, and Thorne properties. And our purpose in pulling the disclosure statements and making the FOIA request was to cross-reference members of the commission, entities disclosed on the interest statements, and the downtown developments to see where there may be crossovers. And I'm still working through the many documents that the city provided us, but I'm surprised at the extent of the involvement of an active commissioner with the aforementioned properties. And I was additionally surprised to learn that on one of the closing statements had NAIH Hiffman, a firm where two of the commissioners are senior employees, receiving a more than $43,000 brokerage commission. And from going through this process, I think simply asking EEDC members to file economic disclosure forms are not enough. I think that there are some very talented people on the commission, and obviously the contracting process is very complicated, and in order to protect the integrity of that process, I think it's worth it for the City Council to consider a policy which does one of three things. Number one, either prohibit EEDC members from directly engaging in economic development contracts with the city. Number two, mandate that individual commissioners forego any compensation generated from economic development projects with the city while they're a member of the commission. Or number three, mandate a recusal from the commission for a certain period of time while they or an entity have a relationship that engages in a contract with the city. I think it's worth it to protect the interests all around. And two last points quickly. The city staff did a fantastic job of responding to my FOIA request, and I wanted to specifically say thank you. We were one of the organizations that worked very hard on the FOIA rewrite, which I think Mr. Borchard's going to be talking about. And my only comment, I give this advice to people who come to our organization and making FOIA requests. I tell them a phone call goes a long way, and if there are questions about what information is actually being requested, pick up the phone and ask for clarification. And I also want to say thank you to the mayor for stopping by the Citizen Advocacy Center. We offered to do an ethics training for the council, and the mayor stopped by to say hello. I'm sorry I wasn't there, but I'm glad to talk with you further about that and arrange a date. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to working with the council on a policy related to contract disclosure ordinances.
Thank you, Ms. Pastica. Anybody else for public forum at this time? The gentleman there in the blue shirt, it looks like.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Cusack, and I live at 0 South 579 Kirk in West Yorkfield. I'm here to speak to you again tonight regarding the Elmhurst Memorial Hospital development in my West Yorkfield neighborhood. Over the last few years, I and my neighbors have followed your rules in voicing our concerns and issues to Elmhurst Hospital, the City of Elmhurst, DuPage County, and York Township regarding the hospital development. These concerns were and continue to be traffic, noise, property values, and the living environment. And what have we achieved by playing by the rules? Traffic. The Elmhurst DPZ Committee is recommending to you today a traffic plan to use Harvard as the main hospital employee entrance, resulting in more than 1,000 vehicle trips per day on Harvard. This is quite a change from the hospital's original plan of 24 delivery trucks to the loading docks off of Harvard that were deemed essential to the development. And even the subsequent plan modifications included assurances by the hospital that Harvard traffic would be kept to a minimum. No restrictions are being placed on Lexington and Kirk traffic other than an eastern-only access and egress to parking lot 2. Noise. Not only will the residents be subject to the noise of all that traffic and the employees, but the Energy Center will be generating sufficient noise, not only for the normal operations 24/7, but also the monthly testing that is required. Property values. The city has designated West Yorkfield as institutional property, the same designation as hospital property on the latest comprehensive plan. That, coupled with the fact that Elmhurst can annex West Yorkfield at any time, and the hospital development itself, has virtually eliminated any normal market value of the remaining homes. That is in direct violation of your own zoning ordinance that regarding granting zoning that damages existing property values. You may be under the impression that the hospital has made offers to buy all private properties, but I have never received a hospital offer, and I know I'm not the only one. The only conclusion to be drawn is that the hospital and Elmhurst, working together, have betrayed the trust that the West Yorkfield residents have reluctantly placed in them to act as good neighbors and honorable and decent people. I feel betrayed, and I'm angry about all the misleading information and outright lies that I have been told. You leave the Yorkfield residents with few options other than the legal system. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else for public forum at this time? Gentleman in the back with the beige shirt there.
My name is Pete Folkerts. I live at 0 South 551 Kendall in Elmhurst. I'm also a resident of the Yorkfield area. I won't belabor the subject that Dan brought up. We were just notified at our last neighborhood meeting that in fact the city was considering having traffic on Harvard go from 100 vehicles a day to potentially over 1,000. And this is before Park Place even gets into their operation over there. I would really appreciate it if the council would consider having committees meet with the Yorkfield Association so that we can in fact discuss different traffic planning that would keep this traffic out of our neighborhood. And many of the things that Dan has brought up are just things that are really upsetting to our neighborhood, and we'd really appreciate your help in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for public forum at this time? Gentleman there in the back.
My name is Claude Bogart. I live at 566 West Gladys. I put this question to the city council and the administration of this city. Is this city running a deficit or not? We were told that a property tax increase was necessary to eliminate a deficit. Yet every time the agenda comes, we are hiring another consultant. The last example in hiring a consultant left me in doubt as to whether this administration or this council has any idea of what the background of this firm was or what they were to accomplish. When the city staff or council members were asked to describe what this firm was hired to do, no answer was given other than parameters will be coming forth. It would appear that little, if any, thought is given to the deficit or to the deficit if it exists. Money is available to hire consultants, but the needs of the city cannot be met for a lack of funds. Why is it possible that funds can be found to hire someone to tell us what we already know, but we cannot find funds to repair and sustain what we already know is in need of repair? If the investment by the business community cannot attract firms or people to this community, of what benefit is spending city funds that we supposedly do not have, but of late we seem able to find without any trouble? I would hope that before we have another tax increase, no matter in what form, to support consultants, that we use what funding we have to maintain and repair what we have. For money we spend on paper reports, lunches, and phone calls will do little to better my life or eliminate the deficit this city supposedly has.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for public comment at this time? Anyone for public comment? Anybody else? Okay. Seeing none, I will close the public forum portion of our meeting. And those that came out for proclamations, unless you want to stay for a long budget meeting, you're welcome to, but might be a good time to take a break and not have to be here till 10 o'clock like we have to be. So, but if you want to be, you're welcome to. So you can learn a lot about money in the city. All right. Well, the room clears here a little bit. I will then go on to our consent agenda. And at this time, if there is any alderman or council person that has a question or might possibly want to vote no on an item on the consent agenda, if there's anything that anybody would like removed at this time, if you could please, or discuss, et cetera. Alderman Morley?
Item V as in Victor.
Item in V as in Victor. Morley. Anybody else? Alderman Shea?
Yes, item X.
Item X.
X-ray.
X, that's an X-ray.
X is an X-ray. And Alderman Wagner?
Item I, Mr. Mayor.
Item I. Okay. And Alderman Brown, and I'll go to Alderman Pezza.
Item D is in David.
D is in David. Alderman Pezza.
S is in Sam.
S is in Sam. Okay. Anybody else? Questions? Might possibly vote no. All righty. At this time, I'd ask for a motion and a second to approve the contents of the consent agenda, less items D, I, S, V as in Victor, and X. Motion by Alderman Wagner, second by Alderman York. And Clerk Spencer, if you could please call the roll, please.
Wagner.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Pezza.
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Rose.
Aye.
Bram.
Aye.
Hipskin. Absent. Nybo.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Morley.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner. 13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent. The motion passes to approve the items of the consent agenda, less items D, I, S, V as in Victor, and X. And at this time, I go on to item D. I'd ask Clerk Spencer to read the appointment, please.
This is regarding an appointment of the EEDC Commission, William H. Huber. With your advice and consent, I will appoint Mr. William H. Huber to the Elmhurst Economic Development Commission for a term to expire April 30th, 2013. Respectfully submitted, Peter D. DeCiani III, Mayor of Elmhurst.
And at this time, I ask for a motion and a second to put this item on the floor, please. Motion and a second. Alderman Brown, second. Alderman Wagner, discussion. Alderman Brown?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really, it's not in regards to this appointment specifically. What I wanted to find out was the last time we did discuss this on the dais, there was discussion of potential conflict of interest. There was mention by, I believe, the city manager stating that these individuals are filing a statement of economic interest like CAC referenced earlier tonight. So my specific question for this one, just to know from a procedural standpoint, even though it's not in our ordinance to date, is did this individual file a statement of economic interest this year?
Quick question, point of order. Would this be something that would bring up, being that this isn't really related to this motion or this item? Would that be something we'd bring up under other business possibly? Or do we want to discuss
I'm
that?
asking in regards to this individual.
Right. City Attorney Storino, what do you think?
I don't know, to be honest, if he's filed his economic interest, but it probably would be very appropriate for him to do so, assuming you consent with the mayor's appointment tonight. If that consent is granted, we can advise the gentleman to file immediately. And I don't think it would be a violation for him not to have filed at this point, because he's really not been appointed yet.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. So, any other discussion on this? Are you asking about this gentleman's economic disclosure, or are you asking about...
I'm asking in regards to this gentleman, and therefore understanding where we're going in the future, so...
Gotcha. Very good. Okay. Yeah, I would assume once he gets his appointment in and he's voted on, then he would be required as a commissioner to go ahead and get that economic interest form filled out. So, Any other discussion? Hearing none, I ask Clerk Spencer, actually, could we do this by a yes vote? All in favor, you can please state by saying aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. That appointment carries. And on to item number I, which is a referral. Ask Clerk Spencer to read the referral real quick.
It is respectfully requested that the City Council authorize the Public Affairs and Safety Committee to work with city staff in a review of available systems that are becoming available to allow for a subscriber fees and service to provide for locations of individuals. Such a system has proven very effective for custodians of children or adults that have medical disorders or situations wherein they are prone to becoming disoriented and lost. Therefore, it is recommended that the Public Affairs and Safety Committee complete a review, offer a recommendation for the City Council's consideration. Respectfully submitted, Thomas P. Borchard, City Manager.
Thank you, Clerk Spencer. And I ask for a motion and a second to put this item on the floor, please. Alderman Wagner, second. Alderman Healy, and discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, it is a referral, so we obviously realize that there isn't much discussion, but I think we wanted to bring attention to the idea, and so I will refer to you, Mr. Mayor, for a little bit more of the attention towards it.
Thank you, Alderman Wagner. And actually, the person that brought the attention to me is actually in the audience tonight. That's Nancy O'Brien, who has a son with autism who was literally lost, I believe, for about multiple hours. Was later found by the Elmhurst Police Department, but we have a lot of situations, and I also had another situation where another mom had called that was Tina Seidenfuss with a similar situation, lost son, autism. But we also have many seniors with Alzheimer's, dementia. We have other children with other disabilities. We have, Alderman Wagner's got his 2 children with juvenile diabetes. So we have a variety of disorders out there that could need to be monitored and need to be tracked and need to be have the ability to be found pretty quickly. So I am again applauding our chief for doing a lot of research on this. Naperville and various other communities have come up with programs where we can actually they could actually track citizens. And this program, by the way, from what I understand, does not require any equipment for our squads. And God forbid a child or even an adult is lost outside of our jurisdiction. Say they're in the city, Chicago, they're in Naperville, they're at a fest, they would still be able to be tracked with this system. So I think that really kind of makes it really unique and robust for us to be able to hang our hat on. So, and that's going to be going through the committee, and I appreciate Ms. O'Brien for bringing it to my attention. And we're also going to be looking at private funds for this through organizations like ECAF and possibly the Rotary for the seniors, so that we can make sure that we have, or the Women's Club. I got Jackie already nodding her head out there. So I appreciate the Alderman Wagner giving us close attention, and for all the aldermen to consider this as a city-sponsored activity, or actually a service that we're going to be able to hopefully facilitate for our citizens, both young and old. So, and any other discussion on that or questions at that point? I'd ask Clerk Spencer to call the roll, please.
Wagner.
Actually, can I do that by yes vote? I'll do that by yes. All in favor, please say yes by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that referral goes through. And then on to item S. That's an ordinance, and I'd ask Clerk Spencer to read the ordinance, please.
An ordinance granting historic landmark designation for the Anderson House, 301 South Arlington Avenue.
And I'd ask for a motion and a second to put this item on the floor, please. Alderman Pezza, and a second. Alderman Morley, discussion. Alderman Pezza?
Thank you. I'm not sure if the Anderson family is here this evening. I just wanted to say a quick thank you to the family for taking the time and making the effort to become an official piece of Elmhurst landmarked designation history. The Elmhurst Historical Society recently helped fund an historic survey for the immediate neighborhood this home resides in. It's a wonderful home, and I think we should all be proud that they took the time and made the effort to become the landmark designation, I would highly encourage others to do the same if you feel your home would qualify. And if you have questions about it, there's information on the city website, and I'm sure the Historical Museum would be happy to help out with that also. So thank you to the Anderson family.
Very good. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'd ask, this is an ordinance, so we'd have to do a roll call vote on this, please. Alderman, Clerk Spencer, if you can please call the roll.
Pezza.
Aye.
Morley.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
Aye.
Shea.
Aye.
Leader.
Aye.
Rose.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Hipskin, absent. York.
Aye.
Nybo.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Wagner.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent. The ordinance does pass. And on to item V. It's also another ordinance. I'd ask Clerk Spencer to read the ordinance, please.
An ordinance granting an amendment to a conditional use permit for the purpose of replacing a manual reader board with an electronic reader board on an existing pylon sign on the property commonly known as 575 South York Street, Untouchable Car Wash, and the gas shop.
And at this point, I'd like to ask for a motion and a second to put this item on the floor, please. Alderman Pezza and Alderman Morley, and discussion. Alderman Morley, I think you had the request.
Thank you. This is a result of a recommendation coming out of our committee. Simply put, it's a new pylon sign at the corner of Crescent and York, and it was existing. It's a rather large sign, so we just want to make sure we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's. And between myself being on vacation last week and Van Werner being on vacation, there is one bit of housekeeping as it relates to the engineer's stamp for this specific item, and we don't have that buttoned up yet. City staff is tracking that down, and once they get that, assuming everything is what we've been told and what's been submitted for the application, certainly we'll have no problem pushing this through at that time. However, in the absence of that bit of clarification that I'm seeking from city staff, I move to table this ordinance.
Okay. We have a motion to table. Anybody second that? Alderman Wagner? We have a second. And any discussion?
Point of order?
We don't
Not
discuss on a debatable, on a table. That makes sense. Okay. Do we need to do a vote on that, or we can just do a motion, voice vote? Okay, all in favor of the table, state by voting, by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We have a table. All right, that'll get tabled. And on to item X, which is a resolution. I'd ask Clerk Spencer to read the resolution, please.
A resolution authorizing the execution of a consulting agreement between Feinzel Community Marketing and the City of Elmhurst, Illinois.
And at this point, I'd ask for a motion and a second to put this item on the floor, please. Alderman Shea and Alderman Morley with a second. And discussion. Alderman Shea?
Yes. I'll just make it brief. Again, I just wanted to repeat that the City Center Board decided to review the Feinzoll's services, and after doing so, the board decided that continuing with the contract was not an effective use of their dollars, and this is to bring businesses downtown to the city of Elmhurst. We already have 2 consultants working on this. We also have City Center is working on bringing business into Elmhurst, also the Chamber of Commerce's. And with the dollars that are being spent on this, I also feel we'd have better use of those dollars. We can start repairing some things. Just like, for instance, just one thing alone, the sidewalks for the crack filling, for the streets, we've skipped it last year. We're skipping it again this year because we don't have the dollars for it. This would pay for that. And maintaining our streets and keeping them, since we can't do as many miles as we normally would, this would, I think, would be crucial.
Very good. Any other discussion? Alderman Morley.
I think most of the discussion was had 2 weeks ago, but just a point of clarification on what Alderman Shea had said. This isn't only for downtown Elmhurst. The consultant would be covering all of Elmhurst in their duties.
Very good. I'm ready. Alderman Gutenkopf, and then Alderman Pezza. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know we did vet the idea of this consulting agreement extensively at our last meeting. However, my comments relate specifically to the execution of the contract that's attached to the resolution, because I'm very concerned that this contract speaks only in very general terms about the duties of this consultant. It sets no goals. It sets no targets. It identifies no amount of revenue we expect to realize as a result of this agreement. It has no performance measures built in. I can't support such a general, open-ended notion, idea, sort of this vapor of what this person's going to do for us. If we're really expecting that this marketing firm is going to result in new revenue through sales tax, new businesses that come into town, I certainly would like to see some target numbers attached to that. And I don't see that here, so I'm extremely concerned about it, so I can't support this contract.
Very good. Alderman Pezza.
Thank you. I think maybe along that same line, when I reviewed the contract, I had a similar thought, so I went one step further, and I tried to work up some numbers and to put it all into perspective dollar-wise. And I want everyone to understand that voting for this, what needs to happen is to cover the $42,500 in consultant fees for 1 year. It means that a business or new business needs to be added in sales to generate $1,371,427.20 in added new sales, just to generate the needed sales tax revenue from the home rule sales tax to cover this $42,500. That's, if this gets voted in, I certainly hope somebody can provide for that without taking away from other businesses that are already seeing that revenue. So that's a lot to swallow. And I also have a question. When I look back, the same firm, for the fiscal year of '09, I was told their hourly rate was $75 an hour. They were let go partially because of financial times last year. So why is it 1 year later, in worse financial times, we are giving someone a $10 an hour raise or a 13% increase? I personally don't know anybody that is getting $10 an hour raises. So I would just question what justifies the $10 an hour raise from the same person, same service a year ago today.
Thank you, Alderman Pezza. Any other discussion or questions? All right, hearing none, it is Clerk Spencer to call the roll, please.
Pezza.
No.
Morley.
Aye.
Gutenkopf.
No.
Shea.
No.
Leader.
Aye.
Rose.
Aye.
Graham.
No.
Hipskin. Absent. York.
Aye.
Nybo.
Aye.
Healy.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner. No. Wagner.
Aye.
8 ayes, 5 nays, and 1 absent.
8 ayes, 5 nays, 1 absent. That resolution carries. On to item 7, reports and recommendations of elected officials, appointed and elected officials. First item is updates from myself. Really, what we're going to be discussing tonight after this meeting is going to be budget. We're going to try and get through as much of this as we can with the goal of ideally next Monday having time for our circle backs. We talked about maybe questioning sidewalks and rear yard drains and some of the things that we had questions on, hopefully addressing those circle backs next week. But hopefully tonight we'll try and get this budget gone through as much as possible. on the agenda for the open session after this. Items P through Z is my goal. Hopefully we can get through that tonight, and we can stay on track for the following meeting, an actual official city council meeting. I believe it's April 17th, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if is that correct, City Manager Borchert? To have the 19th, to actually have the budget hopefully approved and blessed, so, and balanced. So that's the goal. So that's reports from myself. Any reports from anybody else here at the dais that they would like to speak up about? Alderman Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A report and a question actually go along with the report. We received in our packet an update in regards to traffic counts on Berthoud, which is tied into the reported turnaround problem or jug handle problem along North Avenue due to the lack of ramps on the expressway. And I think we're still working in conjunction with the city of Northlake, or the village of Northlake. I'm not sure which they are. City of Northlake. My question is, I put in a request over a year ago in regards to a referral.
That's what happens.
Okay, maybe not.
Sorry.
Did you have your answer?
It was too easy.
Someone else is speaking at the dais, loud and clear. I put in a request, a referral in regards to turnaround traffic on the side streets of North Avenue that would go alongside of this, since this is a greater problem and a bigger solution, and I was hoping to get an update on where that referral is and when the committee will be discussing that referral.
All righty, I'll refer that to our city manager Borchert. If you have any...
I'll need to go back. I know that the Public Affairs Safety Committee and the Public Works Committee both have had a number of meetings in regards to this issue. The police continue to provide enforcement on the matter. I'll need to check to see if there's a pending item before a committee. We know that the issue is directly a result of there not being a southbound 294 exit ramp to eastbound 64. The study that's ongoing that Alderman Bram referred to is a study that is being sponsored by Northlake, with Northlake and Elmhurst actually being sponsored by the West Cook Council of Government, paying for the bulk of the work through a grant, and then Northlake and Elmhurst are financing the local share. The only way IDOT or the tollway will deal with the ramp issue is to have this very complicated and exhaustive analysis done of the traffic on the highways and of the potential ramp traffic and of traffic in the neighborhood. So that study is ongoing. The existing situation is one that the police and Public Works is attempting to make as safe as possible. I will check on the status of a referral and ask that it be put on the proper committee agenda going forward.
Thank you. I mean, the referral was due to the fact of understanding and knowing that the issue is of greater size and nature, and it was to see what the city of Elmhurst can do in the meantime to prevent or try to mitigate turnaround traffic and circle back traffic, semis and other cars circling through the neighborhoods due to this lack of a ramp. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Rose?
I'd like to respectfully correct Alderman Bram. We don't have a jug handle problem, because we don't have a jug handle.
I was reading the memo. Sorry.
Thank you. We do not have a jug handle, and it would be my dearest wish that we never have a jug handle again. But I would also like to support what City Manager Borchert is saying, because I live right at the intersection there, and police really, it's a bigger problem, I think, than anyone really fully understands, but I really want to support that the police are out there when they can. They're giving tickets, they're stopping. I, as the alderman in that community, stop cars myself, actually, and advise them that they are breaking the law. So this is an issue. It's an ongoing issue that we've dealt with. And I really support any practical solutions that we have towards making life a little more bearable for everyone at that point. But I just wanted to be clear that we don't have a jug handle.
Only referencing the email that was sent to us all.
Thanks, Alderman Rose. And, City Manager gave the city staff version. I'll give the political version. Mayor Sherwin and I are working diligently to hopefully secure some federal funds to address this issue. We're also trying to work with the Western Access expansion, which is also going to bring Southern Access, and that whole project may be included in this fix. So the engineering is being done as we speak, so ideally we'll have a shovel-ready project with a project with several options that will be shovel-ready, and hopefully we'll get this Western Access funding secured, whether it's partly tollway, partly federal money, possibly some municipal dollars as well to go into helping this out. But we've got multiple issues that may all get tied in together in one project here, depending on how this all shakes out. But both mayors, both myself and Mayor Sherwin are working very closely together. And we've got kind of two COGs working here. Two COGs are groups of government, West Central Municipal Conference, which is the Cook County COG, and then we got DuPage mayors. We've got all the mayors that border this whole corridor on board, both in Cook and DuPage County. So we are very much on the same page, and actually in this situation, the congressmen that actually are on the Cook County side have a little more of a connection to Washington than we do here in DuPage. So we're trying to work all the political angles between Lipinski and Quigley and Roscom to bring it all together and hopefully get something done. So good to hear. Alderman Rose?
I just want to make a further comment that I remain committed, and I believe Alderman Bram is committed, that we do not sacrifice the quality of life of people in Elmhurst for people in the region.
Right.
When I walk into the city council, into this building, it says City of Elmhurst. I am an alderman for the city, for the people who live in Elmhurst, not in the region, and I will never sacrifice their quality of life for what's good for the region as a principle. Agreed. Very good. So, but we are working on it. Hopefully, we'll have after the engineering is done with several options, we'll hopefully have a game plan, and I'm sure that those options will be brought. We'll bring them to the city council and all the different councils that are affected by this. So, with that, any other updates at all from anybody? Reports? Okay. On to item B, which is City Manager Borcher and Elmhurst Hospital.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Warner and I have a short summary to provide for the City Council associated with the hospital's ongoing efforts. Quickly to set the stage for Mr. Warner, the City of Elmhurst passed in April of 2008 a number of ordinances and actions associated with the integrated healthcare campus proposal of the hospital for the south end of town, involving the relocation of the hospital from their current location to the south end of town. Those actions included annexation of properties, the approval of a zoning district, approval of a planned development plan for that area, right-of-way that was dedicated and right-of-way that was vacated, infrastructure that was identified and designed, and a funding agreement between the City of Elmhurst and the hospital, which was 50-50 with a not-to-exceed on the city's part, a permit fee, which was $1.74 million and 4 installments of those payments. That project is well underway, as I believe you all know and understand. 2 years of work have gone forward, and it's reasonably on time and on the city side, moving along quite appropriately. Included in that plan from several years ago was a phasing of the hospital's project. Now before the City Council is the Phase 2 of the Elmhurst Memorial Healthcare York Street Campus Plan. I believe the whole council has been provided a copy of all of that project plan. There's certainly a lot there as it involves additional properties to be annexed. That property that's to be annexed, it then needs to be zoned. That needs to be added to the current plan development plan. There's additional right-of-way to be dedicated and to be vacated, and a subdivision to be created and approved, as well as some of the parking issues that you heard under the public comment part of our meeting to be dealt with by a proper committee. Currently, the Zoning and Planning Commission has heard the case and have concluded their analysis and offered up their recommendation. Their advisory recommendation is before the Development Planning and Zoning Committee, which is working on that series of issues for the committee to then offer their advisory recommendations to the City Council. The Public Works and Buildings Committee has met regarding the property that has been annexed and as it relates to the additional right-of-way that needs to be vacated and needs to be dedicated. The Public Works Committee will be offering their recommendation to the City Council. If you're on one of those two committees, you haven't heard too much about this project directly from the city. So from a city staff perspective, Mr. Werner and I wish to inform the whole council and the broader community that the project is going through the review process, and specifically in that regard, 2 weeks from tonight, the public hearing will be held prior to the council meeting for the proposed annexation. Mr. Werner has some visuals to help further explain the details and provide the status from his perspective. Than.
Hey, Dan, if we can get your mic, that'd be great.
That's work. Again, good evening, everyone. I put together this abbreviated slideshow. I tried to get it as short as possible. I got it down to 15 slides. I know it's 10 slides too many, but I think this will tell the story once this powers up. Essentially, the hospital, it's a big binder, 48 some odd tabs, lots of information, but it really only boils down to 4 issues. The first issue is the annexation of properties to be brought into the city and to be rezoned accordingly. The second issue is a re-subdivision of the parcels as a result of the new additional parcels added and a reconfiguration of Harvard Street, an amended plan development plan, and last but not least, for the commercial C2 zoning lot, a conditional use for off-site accessory parking. This was the original approved plan development plan. The subdivision of 2 lots, the one lot to the south, the one to the north of Harvard Street. The property north of Harvard was zoned C2. Everything south of that was zoned HCC. In the HCC district, the only use that's permitted is a hospital use and only as a planned development conditional use. In the original agreement, there were opportunities for the hospital to enlarge their campus without coming back for additional approvals. In the original agreement, we allow, for example, the 2 new medical office buildings that will be going up this year, as well as additions to the building proper itself. The white areas are areas that were not part of the plan, and the 3 different colors or 4 different colors indicate the building heights allowed in each zone. The ultimate build-out plan would look like this once all the properties are acquired. The properties that are going to be annexed and added to the city are shown here in this goldish orange color.
Excuse me, point of order, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I appreciate the city staff wanting to bring us up to speed on this, but I would ask city staff to refrain from any assumption of what's going to happen, specifically with regard to items that are before 2 individual committees where reports and recommendations have not been made. So, for example, to say this is what's going to be annexed is actually incorrect.
Right. This is the request from the hospital, in other words.
I can rephrase that and say this is the request of the properties to be annexed.
Okay.
It did not mean to presume anything. These are the parcels that are requested for annexation by the hospital. This breaks them down into the zoning that they are requesting. The blue is for the HCC campus zoning, and the pinkish red is for the C2 commercial. As you can see, they've acquired properties to the north of Harvard Street. In addition to this development, they're requesting a reconfiguration of Harvard Street, as you can see up in the gold, up to York Street. It'll bring that intersection to a 90-degree T intersection, which it is not now. And as a result of that road and as a result of the additional parcels, a subdivision would have to be redrawn and redone to include those parcels. And that's what the requested subdivision looks like. The zoning in the district, as you can see, the white area in the middle is unincorporated at this time. The comprehensive plan adopted.
Question, I'm sorry. Could you go back to the previous slide? So the areas in white on that slide are unincorporated?
That's correct.
So they are not zoned anything?
They are zoned a classification under DuPage County.
So
General-
DuPage County controls the zoning there?
Right. And their zoning classification for predominant, the predominant zoning is R4. So
which is residential?
Residential, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the comprehensive plan adopted last year, last April, included the areas north of Harvard up to Lexington as institutional zoning. The commercial property along York, between York and Kendall, remains as commercial property zoning, and that is why the conditional use for off-site accessory parking is being requested for that Lot 2. This is an example of the comprehensive plan and their plan side by side to indicate the degree of conformity. The conditional use will be applied to all properties, lots 1, 2, and 3. Lots 1 and 3 is a hospital plan development, and Lot 2 as the off-site accessory parking. Here is a layout that shows the parking and the access for the parking. Just so you can barely read, this is the total parking count. And this is the amended development plan that's being requested. It shows the Lot 3, the new Lot 3 at the northwest corner is all purple. That's a 0 building height zone. That lot would be used for only surface parking. Any changes to that would require them to come back in and do another amended plan development plan. This is what the ultimate build-out would look like if all those parcels were acquired. And that's it. So if any questions?
All right. Questions, anybody?
Again, there's no issue before the council this evening. We wish to provide a staff report informing you that 2 committees have action items before them, and ultimately all of it will be needing to be reviewed by the city council and approved via ordinances.
Very good. Questions, discussion? Alderman Brown.
Yeah, just a quick question. Is the 5-inch binder that we received about a week ago, this is a nice summary and an overview. Is that part of this 5-inch binder? Okay, thank you.
Question? Okay, very good. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. All righty. City Manager, you all done? We all wrapped up on item B?
I've got...
Want to do a wrap-up? And you want to do, we got item C about the FOIA.
I'm done with B if the council's done.
Any questions on item B before we go to item C?
On item C, I did want to provide the rest of the story on the Freedom of Information Act item and impact. Elmhurst Press did a story on that state mandated legislation, and their report was complimentary to the city of Elmhurst for following the rules and regulations. Elmhurst mayor and city council expect the city staff to follow the rules and regulations, so we don't take that compliment as too significant, because that's what we're supposed to do, and it was pleasing to understand that that's what happened. But the rest of the story, again, is that this is a mandate from the General Assembly. There was a Freedom of Information Act law prior to January 1st, there were some changes. Elmhurst followed the rules in the past. We're certainly going to follow the rules going forward. This mandate, however, does have a requirement that the City of Elmhurst, as well as all other local governments, provide this information as a priority to anybody that requests that information. The information that was requested by the state mandated law, by the newspaper, cost the city staff in loss of productivity, the hours spent getting the material together times the hourly rates, a loss of productivity on city services, city areas of response from the community for services directly to the community of over $1,500 worth of lost productivity. There was another request that was processed that had a lot of complexities associated with it. Those complexities required the city to have a lot of legal review of the request to make sure there weren't materials released that shouldn't be released, and further complexities associated with it that cost the city out of pocket over $5,400 and loss of productivity of over $200. So this mandate by the General Assembly of the State of Illinois does have impacts that are arguably not all positive. It's certainly positive for folks in the community to get information in a timely fashion, but that information is provided at the expense of other productivity. Since January 1st, 3 months, the City of Elmhurst has processed 160 Freedom of Information Act requests spread throughout the city's departments of general administration, development, finance, IT, police department, and public works. And over 122 hours of staff time has been pulled off of doing other direct services delivery to the community to get this information and release it. So again, it's an appropriate requirement to provide this information to folks not only in Elmhurst but wherever the requests come from. But it comes at a lack of productivity on traditional Elmhurst police and fire and public works services.
So, City Manager, just want to clarify. So the two requests, just want to make sure we got this right. $1,500 in lost productivity. But I think more significantly is the $5,400 pure cost. It's a pure cost that we're incurring in addition to the lack of lost productivity. And what kind of funding are we getting from the state with this mandate to pay for these items?
Zero.
So we're getting no funding?
No direct funding at all regarding the FOIA law. It's a mandate without revenue.
Okay.
On a quick item to report on a very positive reaction from the Elmhurst community to the 2010 census. If you haven't yet filled out your 2010 census request for information, please fill that out. Elmhurst has got nearly a 70% response rate, which is nearly tied for the highest percentage response in all of DuPage County, which reflects well for Elmhurst. And the more folks respond appropriately, the better revenue sharing is and accurate representation is for the city of Elmhurst. The city has tried to get information to folks, encouraging them to respond, and as Elmhurst has traditionally, Elmhurst responds very, very well. We're pleased with the early response. Again, it's nearly leading all of the communities in DuPage County. As Joe Newton says in his encouragement of the long green line, take it to the tape, though. Finish the event. If you haven't finished and filed your forms, please do so, and encourage others to do that.
Yeah, please, we must get those census forms in. We need as much funding as we can from all levels. And Alderman Gutenkopf has a question. Before we go to Alderman Gutenkopf, I just want to this FOIA law just went into effect January 1st, and I know we were looking at costs that we've incurred in the past, legal costs, et cetera. This is going to be and talking to many other mayors throughout DuPage and Cook County, unfortunately, I think there's, like anything that's good, there's going to be exploitation to the FOIA law. For instance, we have many communities that are telling me that commercial people are coming in and they're asking for all the building permits pulled. They're FOIAing those so that they can solicit those people for housing products, et cetera. So they're using this new law to actually give them a list of prospects. Realtors are using it. Insurance people are using it. So we've got a lot of the mayors that are actually looking to amend this FOIA law so that it could actually be restricted, because, as Mr. Borchard mentioned, 160 requests. These two requests cost the city almost $7,000. So while we appreciate better government, Ms. Pastica, we just have to keep that in mind too. That we can pick up the phone and probably answer a lot of these questions, but we're running real tight on money, and with an unfunded mandate, it's very difficult to operate. So we'll be as open and transparent, and we have to be. We've always been, but it costs money. So I'm glad the city manager brought this to everybody's attention, because we're subsidizing Meals on Wheels, we're subsidizing senior housing, we're subsidizing counseling services. That's money that's possibly going to come out of those pockets if the FOIAs get out of hand. So another unfunded mandate, and the state, unfortunately, is looking to take about 30% of our income tax away. So we've got the state wanting to take more money from our city, but they're putting more mandates on our city. So just a kind of a tough situation to have to deal with, but that's government. Alderman Gutenkopf?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Borchert, I actually have two questions. First is, can you tell me what percentage increase there's been in the same time period over last year? How many FOIA requests did you get in the same time period last year? And then my second question is, I appreciate that you've brought this to our attention. I'm concerned that we may give a sense, an unplanned sense to the public that we don't think that we should be as open and transparent as, and I'm certainly sure that you didn't mean to imply that. But I'm wondering if you're bringing to us any suggestions or recommendations for how the city might approach this. So how much of an increase does this represent over last year? And are you bringing to us a problem that I'm sure you must have some solutions in the back of your mind, and I'd like you to share those with us.
Thank you. The data that we're now maintaining since January 1st, I don't have available for previous years, so I don't have the summary. It's my sense, however, that the city is probably responding to about the same number of FOIAs as we have in the past. We just didn't know we had so many because they were processed by departments without it all going through one central processing location, which is now a requirement of the new law, and so we're keeping track of this. Frankly, I was surprised that there was so much requests, again, all of which have been responded to in the past, and we will continue to respond as we should, and certainly as we must. As the mayor reported, it was simply to let the community understand that there is a cost for everything, and the FOIA legislation that has been touted by the General Assembly is great stuff, provides information as a priority to residents and citizens of the state of Illinois, but it comes at a local community expense shared by every city and village hall across the state, and in our case, information as noted. We just will continue to keep these requests organized in this fashion so that we can report to your attention and to the General Assembly, and I think ensure that citizens that need information for their purposes can get it. I'm not so sure that it should be available at taxpayer expense for folks that are taking that information for commercial benefit. But that's for the General Assembly to decide, not for us.
So I just want to make sure I understood what you said. You do not believe that there's been an increase in the number of FOIA requests. We're tracking them differently because they're coming through a central office now. So if we've had no increase in FOIA requests, we're probably spending about the same amount of money as we spent last year. So it's incorporated into our overall budget, and it doesn't really represent a huge new hit to the city coffers. Is that correct?
I'd say that's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would say, as a mayor and hearing the other mayors and the other, especially the clerks, they're the ones that are really having to deal with this. It's a lot more work, a lot more time. Now we're putting a dollar value to it, so we kind of get an idea what these requests cost. There are mandates. There are ways to pass mandates. I just actually worked on one for training for teachers' aides, and we put the burden of the cost on the teacher aide. So this mandate could have been written in a way that if you want to do a FOIA, it's going to cost you based on what the FOIA costs. So, but it depends on who's writing the legislation and how well it's crafted. But this is an additional burden on municipalities. I think it will be a much larger additional cost to municipalities. And we're already working with less people. We're down 5% in headcount. We got less bodies to get the work done. And we've got to respond, I believe, twice as fast or 3 times as fast as the previous law. So this law has only been on the books since January 1, so it's really hard to track. But we just put a pen and pencil to this transaction just to kind of put a value on what it costs, just so the public understands what these requests can cost here.
I appreciate this, Mr. Mayor, but I don't think it's twice as fast. I think it's a day or two sooner.
2 days.
2 days sooner, which
So it went from 7 days to 5 days, almost a 50% increase, 40% increase in speed. So, and when you're dealing with, a relatively small window to begin with, it's pretty tight, especially when there's no funding and they're looking to take funding away. So, and again, there's ways to write mandates to pay for them or put the burden on the person requesting the FOIA. So, but
what it boils down to is we really want to be transparent in how we operate and make as much information available to the public as possible, and that's what this
absolutely
law
we
covers.
do. It just costs money. So, and it could be money that we spend on taxpayers that get services. So that's I think what we really try to are letting people know. Alderman Pezza?
Thank you. I believe with any new policy, there's always a learning curve, and I'm hoping that curve can be approached quicker, obviously, if there are financial concerns. But when I hear $5,400 in legal fees to address one FOIA report, my first question is, why the heck did it take that many legal hours to obtain public information? I don't know. I can get an answer later, but that sounds like a heck of a lot of legal advice to address one FOIA. And I know from reading the AP, we also paid, and I'm not sure why or how it was involved, one of our consultants 8.2 hours at $100 an hour to help with this FOIA request. And I don't know what role that consultant played in this, but I just think looking at this big picture and looking at the dollar amount, we should probably use this toward the future and see how we can better internally address these things so that we don't have to have so much legal involvement and consultant involvement, and perhaps certain items weren't necessary. Maybe a phone call would have been a lot easier.
Well, I certainly didn't intend to beat myself or city staff or the consultant staff in doing the report. It was simply to report on that there are consequences for requests. Staff has always been open and transparent. We're going to continue to be open and transparent, but it does come with a cost. Minor, we used to be able to charge a fee. Now we can't charge a fee other than the cost of the DVD. If it's requested that the information be provided on a DVD, you can charge $1 or something for the DVD as opposed to 10 cents a page. One of these requests took was so all-encompassing that the response was over 3,000 pages of material. So the city can't city can't steer that, direct that, or it has to respond to that. And the information that was requested in the one case was a very sensitive material, sensitive information that needed to be reviewed from a legal perspective. So we got to follow those rules and regulations. I assure you that, from my perspective, the city attorney and his staff are as frugal as they possibly can be with their assigned hours, and sometimes actually call me and say that they just felt they couldn't put down the hours and charge for what they spent on a case, and they do pro bono stuff. So again, I apologize if I've sensationalized. I did not intend to do that. I just wish folks to understand that what I reported on, since January 1st, we've processed 160 FOIA requests, some of which were pretty expansive in the involvement of time and consultant time to respond.
Just a quick follow-up. I think I was just trying to say maybe we could learn from this instance, and perhaps if something is that huge next time, is there a way you could call the person that requested it and say, can you narrow this down a little more? Can you help us out? Is there any, I'm just wondering if you could perhaps find a way to more narrow down the request in the future, just to help out.
Problem is, you got 5 days now. So you know, if you get it on one day and then you want to call the person back and they're not in, you know, the clock's ticking, and legally you have to have the work produced. So it's, the burden is on us. And yeah, in the common sense world that we'd like to live in, you know, a simple phone call. But this is a law that we have to follow. And you know, again, it took 40% of the time away, which is already a 7-day window. Now we're down to 5. So we must comply. Otherwise, we get, you know, we're in breach. Alderman Nybo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. While undoubtedly this is a very important subject, I think we should be mindful of the fact that we've got now less than an hour by our own self-prescribed deadline to finish our budget review. That being said, I will never hesitate to speak up in defense of our staff. And one thing I try never to do is to get one piece of information and draw a very broad conclusion from that one piece of information. I think we should be very careful of that. And, believe it or not, sometimes these requests are not entirely appropriate, and therefore we do want attorneys reviewing them and helping us in our review.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Okay. Oh, Clerk Spencer.
I have with me a PowerPoint presentation that was presented to the clerks of DuPage County by Attorney Storino's group. So I think I'll have Aaron make a copy of this and put it in the alderman's packets, and maybe you can further understand what City Manager Borchard was trying to explain on cost and time and so on and so forth. Okay? Thank you.
Thanks, Clerk Spencer. All righty. On to item number 8, other business. Any other business like to be discussed at this time? Hearing none. Announcements. Anybody for announcements? And with that, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. Alderman York, Alderman Rose, all in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? We're adjourned. We'll do a 5-minute recess and we'll go right to budget.